Hi everyone, this is Dr. Afshin Emrani, and I want to do a talk with you for a few minutes on the mental health series during this coronavirus and COVID isolation and quarantine at home. As I've been writing on the Facebook page and on my Instagram page, I've been calling many patients over the past few weeks and discussing their health with them, trying to manage them over the phone, telemedicine, and making sure that I keep them out of the hospital setting. And recently, one thing that I've been seeing is a major deterioration of the mental status of many of my patients. But interestingly, I find that there are three categories of events that I'm noticing, and I wanted to share them with you. The number one is an identity crisis for most of us. And by identity crisis, I mean most of us are used to either having a job. So we identified ourselves with our job. Like, for example, I'm a physician, or somebody may be an accountant, or a worker of some sort. And you are no longer doing that. And once you don't do that for a period of time, you wonder who you are anymore. So there's an identity crisis, and we also identify with our routine. So you wake up in the morning, you do certain things, you drive somewhere, you do certain actions, you come back, you have a very strict routine. And when you don't have that routine, you wonder who you are. So there is a loss of identity of who we are as we are with our jobs and who we are with our routines. And this obviously causes an existential crisis in many people's lives, wondering, who am I if I'm not my job, and if I'm not my routine, and if I'm not my shopping, who am I? And that is a very important question that people are asking themselves, but it's also bringing on a lot of trouble for them. The second thing that people complain to me about is that they are having trouble sleeping, or they are having night terrors, or very vivid terrors, vivid dreams, or they are bursting into spontaneous crying during the day, or they're getting anxious, or they're getting angry or irritable, and they're wondering if they're slipping into depression. And I think that what I'm hearing is that people are grieving, actually. It's not depression or anxiety per se, but it's mostly grieving. And what do I mean by that? I think that people have had a sense of what is normal in life, and now they are grieving the loss of that normalcy. The life is not normal anymore. And so many people had this pattern of, for example, going away for the summer on some sort of a vacation, having school schedules, having parties in their lives for their children, for birthdays, let's say, for graduation, for different events, marking events in life, such as bar mitzvah or wedding, and all of those things have been taken away. And so people are experiencing grieving, and grieving makes you feel sad, makes you question things, makes you cry, makes you not be able to sleep. And so I think that once people realize that they're grieving and give it a name, it actually helps deal with that. The third event that I'm seeing with people is something that I hadn't thought about, but it's very interesting. Because what do most of us do when we have a feeling, or when we want to express something? We express it on, let's say, social media. And then what's the next thing that happens? Even if for people who don't express things in social media, they look for other people who express things on social media, and then they read that. And then they say, yes, I identify with that. But what's the next thing you do is you read the comment section, right? And what happens with the comment section is that there are a lot of trolls. There are people that actually want to make you feel bad. They want to attack you. And so what happens is that we've sort of absorbed that into our lives, and that has become part of our life and part of our thinking. So what happens is that, let's say if I feel sad or I cry, or let's say I feel angry, and I start thinking to myself, what is going on with me? I'm grieving and I'm angry, or I'm grieving and I'm sad, or I'm grieving and I'm having nightmares. The next thing is you start thinking about what other people would say in the commentary section of the thought that you actually just had. And what does that do is that you actually troll yourself. And so not only you are trying to get in touch with your own emotions, but you're stopping yourself from feeling those emotions by judging yourself in a negative format. So now I want to give you some ideas of how to help yourself. Number one, I want you to realize that you may be grieving, and if that's what it is, then identify it, name it, and let's deal with it, that it's okay to grieve the loss of something that you always had for your life, and your life was taken away from you in the way that you knew. Now we're going to go back to life again. This thing, we will come through this. The winter will be over and spring will come upon us, but it might be different and it may not be the way that we recognized it before. So normalcy may have changed, and therefore we need to know grief, and we need to work through grief by reaching out to people, talking out loud with them, expressing our feelings, and that will help tremendously. The next thing is to realize that you are not just your job, that you are a human being with passion, and what is your reason for living. Everybody has a why. Why do you live? Who are you? Why do you act the way you do? And for me, for example, one of the biggest whys I have in my life is I want to make sure that I'm a good Jew. So if I'm a good physician, it's because it's part of being a good Jew. If I give to charity, it's because I want to be a good Jew. If I do something that is the right thing to do, even if nobody else finds out, it's because I want to satisfy that part of me that is so desperate to be a good Jew. But for everybody has a different thing that they want to do in their life. So find out what is it that turns you on and really inspires you to be who you are. Who are you? What are you? And then do more of that. And as part of that, find out what gives your life meaning and purpose, and do more of that. So if it is doing charitable work, or calling somebody and joking with them and making them laugh, or feeling like you're building a connection with somebody, or doing something for someone that nobody will ever find out and the other person will never find out. Whatever it is that gives your life meaning and satisfaction, do more of that. And again, as part of that, the more you get out of your own skin and do something for somebody else, the better you'll feel. So instead of focusing on woe is me and why does this happen to me and causing that idea of suffering, because pain is necessary but suffering is optional, right? So if this quarantine has been painful, you don't have to suffer through it. So the suffering part of it is optional. It's a Buddhist teaching. Then try to get out of your own skin and do things for other people, and that will tremendously help you. Next is learn to talk to yourself as if you were talking to somebody you actually loved. If a friend called you up and told you that they are sad and they can't sleep, you wouldn't start judging them and calling them names. So why would you do that to yourself in your own mind? Catch yourself, stop it, and be nice to yourself, and talk to yourself as if you were talking to your best friend who is in need. And finally, set up some sort of routines, maybe 4 or 5 routines that you do every day, from the time that you wake up to the time that you go sleep. 5 things, maybe going for a walk, maybe reading for a few minutes. Make little windows of opportunity and time for yourself, and do those so that you create some sort of a routine, because the human mind needs routine. I hope this is helpful for everyone. Take care of your mental health. Is exceptionally important at these times. And please share this with other people who you think would need it. Thank you, bless you, and looking forward to going back to society soon.